Hello, Conneaut Spartan boys basketball family. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about our season. We do plan on having some sort of an awards program, probably sometime in early April, I'm guessing. But I wanted to make sure that the season just ended less than a week ago, and I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge some people, talk about the season some, and talk about some of the players. So hopefully you're able to hear this and able to access this. I'm going to put it out on the Twitter account. I'll put it out on YouTube, and I'll also make sure it's on the Remind. So, anyways, I want to start out with some thank yous. First of all, I want to begin by thanking my assistant coaches. Justin Sanford has been the JV coach the last couple years. He also volunteered for a few years before that. Also a head girls volleyball coach here at Conneaut High School. Justin does a tremendous job with our guys. He coaches them very hard, which is important at that age. They're going from being middle school players up to being high school players. And I can't thank Justin enough for the job that he does. We had a volunteer this year, Terry Thompson, comes for us from Girard High School, although he's coached all over Pennsylvania at all levels, high school, college, boys, girls, just an incredible wealth of experience. The guys really like him. I'm really hoping he stays around for a few more years. We'd love to have him with us, but Terry's done a fantastic job. I know he's also connected with some of the parents, and we're fortunate to have him. Middle school coaches, I want to thank Steve Ohanick and Ted Johnson, two of my oldest friends. We were friends long before I ever came to Conneaut High School to coach basketball. Steve also spent some time with the varsity this year. He was probably at 7 or 8 of our games, so I want to thank them for the efforts they've put in as well. I want to thank Mrs. Tallbacka, the cheerleaders. They did a great job this year. Kind of an unusual season, only having cheerleaders for the home games, but they're a big help to us. Certainly, they helped bring the atmosphere to the gym. Mrs. Tallbacka also functions as the DJ at the home games, and I think the music she plays really adds to our atmosphere. Looking forward to having that again next year when we have full capacity, hopefully, as far as fans go. I want to thank our athletic trainer, Monica Brown. I want to thank Mr. Taylor, athletic administrator here at Conneaut High School. He had an incredible task ahead of him this year. He was probably in the gym 5-6 nights a week between the girls, the boys, and the wrestling. It was very difficult because we had to condense our season into basically 2 months. And I think the job he did juggling all 3 sports and making sure that we had games. We played 22 basketball games plus tournament this year, which if you would have told me that when the season started, I would have said no way. But and Mr. Taylor deserves a big thanks for that. Want to mention Billy Ciccatelli. Billy Ciccatelli, for lack of a better description, is Conneaut basketball. Every gym we go into, he knows people. People know him. I think he could probably officiate an NBA game right now the way he knows officiating. He's on top of the schedule. I really appreciate Billy Ciccatelli for everything he does, and I'm hoping to have him going forward as well. I want to also thank our new band director, Mr. Nate Wise. He appeared at 21 of our 23 basketball games to do the live stream. Volunteer, just wanted to be involved with sports here at Conneaut. Got to know Nate pretty well, and I think he's certainly an asset. Having young guys in the school district is always a good thing, and we really appreciate him. Otherwise, without him, we would not have been able to live stream the games, which is especially important considering our Pennsylvania opponents and a few Ohio opponents also did not allow any visiting spectators. I want to thank Ms. Murmurs for the scorebook, Miss Georgia Woods for doing the clock, and actually those two kind of combined for the clock and scorebook duties. Miss Woods did the scorebook on the road. She also organized all of our team meals. Miss Woods did. It's amazing. Her son graduated and didn't play this year. He graduated, so she still volunteered a lot of time organizing team meals. It was interesting this year. With the pandemic and all, we didn't really have very many true team meals, but what we did was we had given subs to the guys for almost all of our road trips, and she organized all that, coordinated with the parents. So I got to thank her as well. She did a tremendous job with that. I want to finish by thanking our administration, Dr. Neal, Miss Anzovich, Miss Riley, supporting basketball, supporting all the sports here at Conneaut High School. Again, in a very unusual year, is a credit to them. Want to also thank our parents. It's nice to have the unwavering support that our parents have given us this year. It's been tough times. Coaches have what's best for the team in mind, which isn't always best for every one of your sons. But we support the fact that the message at home is to listen to the coaches and do what the coaches say and supporting us. So we really appreciate, again, the level of support that we get from our parents year in, year out here at Conneaut High School. I'm going to kind of do this backwards as far as the players go. I want to talk first of all about our seniors. We had 3 seniors this season. First of all, Anthony Burkhardt, who was a 4-year letterman, was extremely rare in boys basketball. I never felt so bad about a situation that Anthony had in terms of his medical condition. He had 4 games of over 25 points this season, and those coincidentally were 4 of our best games. Was a leader. The thing that people don't know about Anthony, though, and we know this as coaches and his fellow teammates do too, he had as good of attention to detail in practice as anybody I've ever coached. I've been coaching for quite a long time. And, especially as a senior leader, there's sometimes you have to motivate them a little bit. Never with Anthony. It could be the simplest little drill we were doing. He was 100% all in trying to be a team leader. And he was a very good team leader. So I just think that, if you talk about leading by example, like I said, some of the simplest drills that we would do just to kind of reinforce the basics, he was all out 100% in. And that's pretty rare in basketball. I'm hoping he's able to play at the college level. So second senior was Thane Hayes. Thane's a fantastic kid. Came to us as a junior from out of state. Comes from a family who played basketball here at Connie. His father played basketball here at Connie High School. He's a very serious basketball player, gets after it. I think Thane will make a great coach someday. Him and I have had some conversations about basketball. Sometimes he'd stay around after our scouting meetings and just add his opinion to it. He watches a lot of tape, and so really appreciate Thane. Ethan Morrison, our third senior, has been a very well-known swimmer in the county. I think he was County Swimmer of the Year for a couple of years. Glad he played basketball this year. Had a very positive attitude. He was almost always the first one at practice. Loved coming to practice basketball. He made some shots and did a nice job for us this season. So I really appreciate Ethan playing basketball this year as well. To talk about the underclassmen just briefly here. I'm going to follow the order of the roster, so this isn't in any particular order as far as class goes. First of all, Marcus Owens. It was a junior guard for us. Marcus really worked on his shot this year. I thought he improved in the shot quite a bit. He was one of our better defenders. And I think Marcus also took on a leadership role. And after Anthony was unable to play in the games, Marcus really kind of took that leadership role and tried to get the guys pumped up at halftime and just tried to send the right message out there. Freshman Anthony Marshall, also a very hard worker. I thought he improved dramatically as the season went on. I think he also grew quite a bit. I'm looking forward to big things from Anthony going forward in our basketball program. Sophomore Zach Rice, hadn't played basketball since 8th grade, came out this year, started every game for us, just played a ton of basketball, hardly ever came out of the game. Also one of our better defenders. And I really think he also improved. You're going to hear me say this again and again. I know our record wasn't the greatest this year, but I saw an individual improvement out of a lot of guys. And if that continues to next season, I think we're in for big things next season. Zach went from being a guy who was just pretty much an athlete playing basketball in November to making a couple of key three-pointers against Girard in the game we almost knocked off the second-place team in our conference. He also made the game-winning basket in the game against Seneca, so Zach did a great job as a sophomore. Freshman Chance Loomis played part varsity, part JV. Matter of fact, he played full-time varsity in the last 7 or 8 games of the year. Actually started a couple games, which is tough for a freshman. Fantastic athlete, got a ton of basketball skill. Looking for a bright future for Chance. I'm glad he's part of Conneaut basketball program. Caden Farley, sophomore forward, improved quite a bit this season. Is also a kid who hustles, gets after it, does a lot of little things right. He was also a guy who was at almost all of our summer workouts, and I think we're going to continue to see improvement out of him during the course of the season. Junior Delonte Lane was our second leading varsity scorer, very skilled athlete. Became our leading scorer after Anthony went down, and really like what Delonte does in the court. He's got a very positive attitude most of the time, and good rebounder. Looking for big things out of him his senior year. I know he's going to play a lot of basketball in the offseason, and I'm looking forward to having him play next year for us. Freshman guard Max Gleason. Max played point guard the last half of the season, pretty much the whole time in the JV games. And part of it, our JV team struggled some in terms of record-wise, but part of it is every team in our league besides Seneca has a separate freshman team. We haven't had a separate freshman team here for quite a few years. And so those young freshmen are going against sophomores and juniors all the time, and it makes a difference out there. But I certainly think Max got better as the season progressed. He was one of our leaders in the JV win against St. John at the end of the season. So, and Max is also a very hard worker in the offseason. Sophomore Gavin Hedrick, a forward, also split time between JV and varsity. Scored a ton of points for the JV this season. Had a huge game again in the win against St. John at the end. He's a battler. He's also gotten way better. If you looked at Gavin Hedrick when he walked in as a freshman, in the fall of 2019, and looked at him playing varsity basketball there down the stretch in quite a few of the games, man, he came a long ways as a basketball player. He's also a very quick learner. I noticed as a coach when coming out of timeouts, he's always right where he's supposed to be in terms of picking things up basketball wise. Freshman Chase Zimmerman, has some scoring ability. He got in there as a role player in our JV games and scored some baskets. He also showed scoring ability during practice. Again, it's tough on the freshman because we don't have a freshman team, but he kept a positive attitude, hustled. And I think he's gonna be a good basketball player for us in the future. Freshman guard J.R. Hutchison, one of our better shooters in the program as a freshman, has a real nice looking 3-point shot. Also is a very hard worker in the offseason. We asked him to handle the basketball quite a bit, especially after Chance Loomis wound up being a varsity player. And at times it was a struggle, but I think he's going to be better for it. Certainly, the way our system is in basketball, every player has to be a ball handler. And I think JR certainly has that going for him. And I think the experience this year is going to really pay off for him down the road. Sophomore forward Larry Ham, first year playing basketball for Kanya High School. Athletic kid, good rebounder. I love Larry's attitude. He gets after it all the time. Every time you ask him to do something, it's always yes, sir, no, sir. I think he's also going to improve having an off season of work. I think we're looking for Larry to be a contributor next year at the varsity level. Forward Jack Madden, sophomore, started a couple games. Jack greatly improved his skill level this season. He was making a lot of shots, especially during the second half of the season, that he had not been making before. He's also a very smart basketball player. I'm looking forward to having Jack around the next 2 years. Junior center Robert Hagstrom, probably our best rebounder of the group. He led us in rebounding this season. Inside player, trying to get the ball inside to him as much as possible. He's also improved his skills quite a bit from the time he was a freshman. And Robert, like I said, gets after it. He's our biggest body out there. Also a great kid. Love to talk to Robert. So looking forward for him to have a big senior season next year. And then finally, Patrick Cantola is a junior first-year player. We had a couple different first-year players in the program this year, which was nice for us to add to our returning group. Patrick's one of our better shooters. He plays center position, but he's a really good shooter, very skilled person. And as far as basketball goes, sees the floor very well. He's also one of our smarter players. Just in talking to Patrick, he's one of our smarter players out there in terms of what's supposed to happen on the basketball court. So looking forward for Patrick to have a big senior season. All right, so I just want to go over the highlights briefly here of our season, and then maybe just have a little bit of closure here. At whatever point in time we do have an actual awards program, we'll talk about the awards then, and probably do some more detail as far as the season goes. But certainly the highlights of any season are your big wins. Our first win over St. John in January was a tougher game than people thought going in. St. John certainly is always fired up to play Conneaut. We had just played a real close game against Mercier's Prep the night before, which kind of got us some confidence going forward. We had almost beat Mercier's Prep in our gym. And we also, I think, got tired in the fourth quarter of the St. John game. We had a pretty solid lead on them, and they came back and cut it down to, I think, 12 or 13 points. I think we were on our eighth quarter in 24 hours, and I think that got a little bit tough on us. But certainly we're happy with the win. Clearly Seneca was the biggest moment for us all season. Seneca at that time was second place in the league. They had just defeated league-leading Northeast. Zach Rice, like I said before, we hit a game winner. Thane Hayes, Anthony Burkhardt hit some free throws. And the key was in that game, we got 3 or 4 defensive stops down the stretch. The other really close games that we didn't come out on top of, we gave up scores towards the end. That game, we were able to get some defensive stops and get some rebounds. And we're really proud of the guys that night. Opened a lot of eyes of other coaches and other basketball fans, and especially in Western Pennsylvania. I heard quite a few compliments and people wanting to see that tape to see how we did. I was also very proud of 2 of the games we played at Girard and at Edgewood. Both of those games we were missing multiple players. The Edgewood game, we found out at noon that we were going to be missing one of our leading scorer. But guys came out and played great, handled adversity. And both those games were losses, but I certainly think the Edgewood game we were winning with less than 2 minutes to go. And the Girard game, we wound up losing by about 18, but I think the kids really battled out there. And playing at Girard, even during a pandemic, is a really tough atmosphere to play in. I was proud of how they handled that. We also had last-second losses to Girard and Grand Valley, with both baskets coming less than 5 seconds away. I think, in both those situations, we had 4 underclassmen on the floor when those last-second baskets were scored. So I think the experience going forward, having a year of basketball under our belts, I think that's certainly going to help us in those situations where we can depend on our defense to win games. I think, too, next year we're going to have some more depth and be able to use more guys. And that's going to lead us to maybe not having some more energy towards the end of those games. We've got to have it down the stretch. The Girard game at home, I mentioned already once there, I kind of felt we beat them. I didn't watch the tape until a day later. And man, there was a couple of things that just didn't go our way in terms of the officiating down the stretch. We did have a couple turnovers that didn't help us, but I certainly think that was a game that we can kind of hang our hats on going forward. In closing, like I said, we're going to have some sort of an awards ceremony at some point in time, probably be, like I said, in early April. I'll keep you informed as far as how that goes. In any event, I I wanted to make sure I shared some thoughts with you guys, and hopefully everybody is going forward with their spring sport. Don't forget about basketball. Work on your games. There's a lot of stuff we can do. I can give you some workouts to do. Coach Thompson can, but I'm looking forward for big things next year in Conneaut basketball. I think we'll be in a way better position experience wise to do some damage in our league next year. And I'm really looking forward to coaching each and every one of you. Other than that, I think that's all I have right now. And so everybody have a nice rest of the day. I think this will be posted probably sometime on Sunday evening, March 7th. So love to have any feedback. And other than that, hope everybody's having a good spring.